I will even love them to be the ones, 50%, who are entered into this program. That's one. Number two, this should provide an opportunity, if they continue to think it through institutionally, to undertake a long overdue radical reform of the NYSC. As far as I'm concerned, the NYSC has gone flat. It's gone flabby.
You think so?
I think so. I really think so. I did NYSC, how many decades ago, but I mean, okay, if it's just to get somebody from Ogun State to go and work in Yobe and think, you can still do that, but I think we really have to rethink the entire NYSC to give it more punch, okay? And to use it, if you like, as part of this.
Maybe you should have a point if you say we must give it some kind of punch, some kind of,
to be of service to the socioeconomy.
Put some kind of excitement and more meaning to the scheme. What would you be asking?
For instance, I would love to see, quite frankly, and I've actually done, if you like, a paper on this to, a Rotary group somewhere. Let us have the NYSC 2 years, 1 full year when people finish high school before they go into the university system. Because then you are working on minds and hearts and attitudes as they are going in. You have more mature students who are going in, not just all these 14-year-old, 15-year-old who don't know, and then they can be drawn and sucked into cultism and all these things. So then go, because we're rushing them to go. In England, it's 18-19, that's when you go into the university. I think I would love to see a situation where our NYSC, when they finish at 14, 15, SS3, let them spend 1 year. When 6 months of it will be serious manual, military, drilling and everything. So they have that get up and go. They wake up 5 o'clock in the morning, all this regimental thing. And they have the discipline so that they take that into the university. They wake on time to go to lectures, they are more serious, they are more focused. 2, let them do 6 months, just this 1 year, 6 months of going into the world of production, of business. 6 months. They see how brewery goes from its rawest material onto the beer you drink. They see how, the textile just pour them out into the world of business, how things are produced in the system, how the economy. Yes. So you give them these 2 orientations. One is Spartan life, work on their mind, body coordination and discipline. The other one is that let them begin to understand how the economy around them runs. Their father pays their school fees, their mother pays, they get scholarship, but let them begin to get a sense about how we produce the cake that feeds all these things. When they take that kind of mentality into the university and through, you see them while they're there. They're already thinking business. They are thinking how, you understand? So you don't produce these supine graduates, labor market supine who are just thinking, I'm there, I have an entitlement to be employed and all these things. You understand? Because we left that phase of our economic development way behind. So if you do that, then you have another year. Then they will do the normal thing they do, which is to foster national unity and everything. And then 6 months of that should be go there, but we should bundle them into what I call innovation and enterprise group. All these are graduates, okay? Remember, they were solid going in. Made them start thinking seriously about their future, about society. Then you make them do that, and they do some.
The problem is getting out of that, spending 2 years of your precious time for the nation, and getting onto the other side. You're left on your own by that same nation you've given some input, to, and that's just a fear for many, knowing full well that having done that, what if you come out and you are, not employed?
Yeah, not likely to be not. Your chances of being not employed are relatively smaller. Because remember, you went into university as a more thinking person, more mature, more forward-looking, because of what you've gone through. You've been in industry. Some people work in breweries. Oh my God, I want to be a brewery technician, engineer, and things. I'm just saying. In any case, many of them finish now. So what do you get? 4 years. Number one, when they finish high school, they spend 2-3 years. Many of them, they are looking for their JAMB. After that, they are looking for their WAEC. They want to get their credit. Some of them spend 2-3 years doing that. Then they finish in the university when the place is closed down for a year or so. And then they finish NYSC 2-3 years, they haven't got a job. Aren't you better off really preparing them more strongly than what? Now they are not getting anything.
Let's bring in Mark there.
It's an interesting idea you bring up, but then, I mean, when you look at the problems that have plagued the other side, I mean, some of the programs that we currently have now, one of them is funding, and then also population growth. What do you think will be the population, for instance, if you have to look and, you know, implement such a program at when people finish secondary school?
Well, look, the population is growing. That's a different layer and level of governance challenge. Okay, it's part of good governance is for a government to be able to create the socioeconomic conditions and outlooks to life that would encourage people not to sort of have children they can look after. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the challenge of even development. You know, there are so many of these structural things. The challenge of even development. Let the state governments, for instance, you know, begin to push development out of the capital cities into the hinterland, okay? And let the federal government help that process. The federal government is too far removed to do, but they can help with providing leadership and everything. As for funding, there's no halfway about it. You've got to grow the economy, especially at the bottom of the socioeconomic pyramid. If you grow the economy, there will be more funds. There will be more people making money. And again, that's what I'm saying, that even within this struggling phase, the money you have, your purchasing power is being constantly undermined by artificial inflation. And we've got to deal with that. Look, one of the good things about this SIP, however weak that is for the overall system, is that you have about 2 million people at the end of the day, you know, every year, if they stick to these figures and if they monitor very well. Okay, I don't want them to be, you know, overconfident about it or be over defensive. It's got to be money. Even when you have all this online platform and you have other means to pay the poorest people directly and all the nice institutional platforms they are setting up, they've got to monitor. You know, while watching, of course, the overhead cost, so the overhead doesn't become another big animal. But these are 2 million people who have been given some level of purchasing power. Out of those ones, 500,000 and 23,000 a month. It's not a lot, but I mean, that is something. But we need to take it not 2 million over the next 3, 4, 5 years. There are other things they should do really, which I think maybe someday they will get there. You can use the contracting system, government spending, government purchase of services and contracts to still empower more than 5, 10 million other youth across the country. It's a question of programming.
Just before you go, you've talked about this artificial inflation. You mentioned it like 3 or 4 times because of the conversation. What is artificial inflation in practical terms? And when you say government needs to do something about it, is it just about the government, or can the individuals, the private sector, what can they do about any other artificial inflation?
The government will be at the root of it, needs to be at the root of it. What is artificial inflation? Is that component of the price you pay for anything which is not really market driven, which is driven by greed forces, by speculation, by the way, by even middlemanship. If you want to bring in X, you know, tonnage of diesel into the country, or you know, AP, you know, AGO or whatever else, you are going to find you are the one bringing it in. You want to sell. This guy wants to buy. In between you, there are about 10 people. Why? Government can do something about that. And I can go on giving you something I've talked many times about. The guy who brings in something through SEME, let's say legitimately or illegitimately, is paid some bribes and things. When they get to the Nigerian border and they get into the Nigerian side, you could say that is the end of the market forces. They've paid whatever they have to pay in Benin to get the thing. But from the time the man gets on this side and he has to pay bribes at about 53 points, all those are not market generated. This is just plain-faced bribe and greed. And then that money will have to be transferred to the consumer. And I can go and give you so many other examples.
I'm hoping that all of those points you've highlighted, the government is listening, and perhaps they can tweak some of those things you've just pointed out, especially the National Youth Service Corps, which you mentioned just by the way. We'd like to thank you, Mr. Bolaji Ogunseye, Sustainable Development Expert, for coming on the program today. Sunrise Daily will take a moment. We'll return shortly and look at another perspective on the same matter. Stay with us.